Hello and welcome to Political Pulse Polling, where we analyze all of the important data leading up to the midterm elections. I'm Dodge Landisman, and with me today from Emerson College Polling is Isabel Holloway and Camille Mumford. And there's an interesting race. In New Jersey, there's a tight Senate race between incumbent Bob Menendez and Republican Bob Hugin. What does the data look like? It's kind of an interesting race. Before, I've seen polls where it's a 9-point spread. Looks like it's getting a little closer. There's some corruption issues.
Sure, yeah. So in our poll, we see that Bob Menendez is up by a margin of 8 points, and that's pretty close for an incumbent. Obviously, there was the corruption charges, and there was the whole trial situation, so that really affected the way New Jersey voters are looking at this election. So we see a pretty close election, but Menendez seems to be coming up top.
And that was the other question, of course, is has his trial affected his poll numbers?
Yeah.
I know he's still on top.
Well, it ended up, we have him up 5, so it looks like it's a tight race. But we also asked the question if voters in New Jersey in general just trusted Senator Bob Menendez, and that ended up breaking for no. Voters did not trust Senator Bob Menendez, 56 to 44, which means that although voters are saying as a majority that they don't trust him, they're still saying that they're going to turn out and vote for him. So it looks like he's still pretty safe.
So at the end of the day with New Jersey, they're holding their breath, voting the party line, as is expected.
We ended up doing a forced choice as well, and he came up. These undecided voters seem to be leaning towards Menendez in that race.
Interesting. And then looking at Kansas's gubernatorial race, it looks neck and neck between Chris Kobach and Laura Kelly. What does the poll show?
So again, we have Chris Kobach up 144 to Laura Kelly's 33%. There's also that independent Greg Orman that's still siphoning off like 8% of that vote. But this is about where we had it a couple weeks ago when we looked at Kansas as well. So it's really a statistical tie. This race could go either way in Kansas.
Right. As noted before, jump ball in a deep red state.
Yeah.
So it could go anywhere. Yeah. And if this Midwest state turns blue, what do you think it means for other red states in the area?
Definitely means that Democrats can compete more than maybe they thought they could. But Trump still has a pretty high approval rating in this state. So if the Democrats manage to win statewide office despite Trump's approval rating, that would be pretty impressive.
Yeah, and that was going to be my follow-up question is, in this rate, which is really tight, how does Kansas approve of the president? What are those numbers?
Yeah, it looks like 55% in the state approve of Donald Trump and support him and his agenda, and 45% disapprove.
Then turning to Ohio, the gubernatorial race there is also quite close. What do you guys see?
So as we can see, it's a pretty tight race between Richard Cordray and Mike DeWine. It's only by a few points margin. So again, it could technically go either way, but we see Cordray coming up top for this poll that we did this past week.
Yeah.
And then Ohio is especially interesting, obviously, a big swing state. What does Trump's approval ratings look like in that state?
Yeah, so unlike Kansas, Trump actually has a net unfavorable in this state. 49% of voters are unfavorable of Donald Trump in Ohio, and 47% only are favorable. But again, that's a really tight margin. Like our poll, only a couple points difference.
And then Democrat Sherrod Brown's Senate seat is also up for grabs on November 6th. What do the numbers look like in that race?
We have him up a little bit more than Richard Cordray is, so he has about like a 5-6 point lead.
Okay. Makes sense. He's the incumbent presidential talk.
Yeah.
And then now in your press release, you saw an interesting trend regarding a gender divide. What did you find?
We found that in pretty much all the states that we've been looking at, Kansas, Ohio, Oregon, even New Jersey, that female voters are tending to break heavily for the Democratic candidates, and male voters are tending to break more for the Republican candidates.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. I'm Dodge Landisman. Next week is Election Day, so we will not be here, but we will be back the following Tuesday to analyze the results. For now, thank you, Isabel Holloway and Camille Mumford from Emerson College Polling. I'm Dodge Landisman. Goodbye.